here it is, the latest EverDrive by Crix. If you're not sure what an EverDrive is, let me give you just a little bit of a lesson. This is the Nintendo EverDrive. Essentially, an EverDrive is a cartridge with a little trick up its sleeve, usually in the form of an SD card. On this SD card, you dump an operating system and all of the ROMs for all of the games your heart could possibly desire. You then take this SD card, place it back into the cartridge, and then put the cartridge in its respective system. Now you get to enjoy a true one-to-one experience that you remember from your childhood. Same controllers, same glitches, same slowdowns, they're all here with these cartridges. So far, Crix has done this for Nintendo, TurboGrafx, Game Boy, Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. Now they also have one for the Game Gear, but I might not buy that one now because of what I'm about to show you next. And that is the Game Boy Advanced EverDrive cartridge. This is the one we're going to be focusing on, and this is the one we're going to be looking at. So let's start taking a look at it.
All right, so the cartridge itself. Here's the front. Here's the back. This is the part that goes into your system. This is where the SD card goes, up on the top right here. And that's about it. Okay, now, how to use the Game Boy Advanced EverDrive with your Game Boy Advanced. Take the EverDrive, stick it in your system, turn your system on, have fun. Okay, I'll show you a little bit more with the controls and stuff. So, as you see right here, this is the same folder structure that you're going to set up on your SD card. In order to select the folders, you use the directional pad to choose which folder you want to dive into. You then use the B button in order to actually select the folder and open it up. You also use it to select the games you want to play. The A button will work as kind of a way to get back. So in order how to back out of games, back out of folders, and so on and so forth. The other option is a Start button, which will just bring you back to the last game you were previously playing prior to shutting off your Game Boy Advance. So let's just start a Game Boy Advance game and see how it goes. Alright, now it's actually taking the game off of the SD card and loading it into a flash memory on the Flashcart. And now, okay, this is weird. It looks like we're playing a Sega game. And this, okay, this actually seems to be a Game Gear game. Wonder what is going on. Okay, it is a Game Gear game. It's actually Sonic Chaos, and is it playable? Well, it looks good so far. This is weird. I'm playing, okay. So this is a Game Gear game on my Game Boy Advance. Okay, let me figure out what's wrong. Alright, so I found out what was wrong with this little guy and why I was running a Game Gear game. So it turns out that the Game Boy Advance is actually powerful enough that it can run emulators, which then in turn can actually run emulated games. So with the Game Boy Advance coupled with this little guy right here, you can actually emulate a Game Gear, a Sega Master System, a Game Boy Color, and then the entire Nintendo Entertainment System library. You can do all that alongside being able to play your entire Game Boy Advance library. I kind of buried the lead and didn't show you how to set up the file structure on the SD card, just so I can show you that it can emulate before I show you how to emulate. So let's go to my computer and I'm going to show you how to set all that up.
To set up the SD card, first you're going to want to download the ROMs for the games that you own. Let me stress games that you own and then organize them. I have them organized by system. This right here is a fake SD setup folder. Pretend this is just an empty SD card, and I'm going to show you how to set up everything within the SD card. So first you're going to want the operating system. So you're going to go to Crix.com, and then you're going to look for the EverDrive GBA X5. Once you find that link, click on it, and it'll take you to the GBA's store page. Scroll down to Downloads, and you'll see an OS Update link. Click on that link, and you'll see a list of operating systems. Right now, I'm going to download the latest and greatest. Save that zip file. Open the zip file, and you'll see a GBA system folder within that zip file. Now, if you have to unzip the file, do it, or if you can, just drag and drop that GBA sys folder directly onto the SD card. Just as is, you don't have to edit anything. So the next part I'm going to do is show you how to set up the emulators. The emulators, if the links don't work that I include, go to this change list file and look at it, and there's a link right there, the dewit.org, and this will include two of the emulators that you need. The first one we're going to look at is the Pocket NES emulator. This is the Nintendo emulator, so if you have any Nintendo ROMs that you would like to run, this is the first emulator you're going to want to install on your SD card. So download that file, and again, it'll be a zip file that's downloaded, so either unzip it or just open it, and look for a file with the extension GBA. So this one is pocketnes.gba. So go back to your SD card, open up the GBA sys folder, and drag and drop the pocketnes.gba file into that GBA sys folder, and you're good to go with the Nintendo emulator. The next emulator is Goomba Color. This is your Game Boy and Game Boy Color emulator. So again, just go to download and download the zip file and unzip the zip file. And again, you're going to want to look for the file with the extension .gba. So click on the GBA one and drag it over again to the GBA sys folder that's already on your SD card. So the last thing I'm going to show you is the SMSAdvance. This one you may have to search for. I'm not sure if the link is going to work that I sent you, but I had to do a little bit of Google searching for this one. They don't include a direct link to this emulator. So I will include a link in the section below, but if it doesn't work, just use Google. So again, you're going to want to save it. It's going to be a zip file. Look for the one with the extension .gba. So there's SMSAdvance GBA, and drag and drop it into the GBA sys folder. Once you do that, your GBA sys folder is complete, and now your system folder is complete with all the emulators. So any games you want to run for any of those systems, you'll have no problem. Now grab all the folders with all the ROMs and simply place it onto your SD card outside of the GBA sys folder. And your SD card is now set up. This is my actual SD card and how I organize my files. Looking at my GBA sys folder, you may see there's a lot more things in it. That's simply because the system adds stuff to the folder, such as saves and stuff, as we go. After your SD card set up, simply eject it so you're safe, and then you're done.
Now a look at the emulators themselves. They are very, very cool, but they do come with some faults. Especially the first thing that comes to my mind, and really the only thing that comes to my mind, is any full system emulator, meaning Nintendo or Sega Master System, it forces a widescreen aspect ratio, which is what just came on the Game Boy Advance. So what you'll notice is, I don't know if you could tell, but some of the words, they're cut off, and that'll happen with character sprites and stuff as well. There are options in every emulator, which I find very cool and very helpful, and you can try to fix this in the display options, but I have not found a display option that will give you the original aspect ratio of like 4:3, where it just has black bars on the side and the game will be in the middle. It always kind of has that, you know, shrunken from top to bottom but fatter from side to side look. Other options you do have in every single emulator is you have an auto fire option for any of the buttons, so you can just click it and the game will automatically press the button as fast as possible for you. You also have, and the most important option available to you is save states. I think save states are the best. So just for example, you know, you're on the bus taking a trip to wherever and you need to get off the bus, but you want to save where you are in the game. You just click the shoulder buttons, go to save state, save this, and it only works on emulators, not on the Game Boy Advance games, only on the emulated games. You just save the game where you are, turn the Game Boy Advance off, and when you want to play it again, you turn the Game Boy Advance on, load the game you were previously playing, go to load state, and then just load it, and you are back to exactly where you left off in the game. So that's kind of the positives and negatives of the emulators. But like I said, the only true negative that I found is that for Nintendo and the Sega Master System, you are forced to play in a widescreen aspect ratio. But, all right.
Did you know there's another flashcard available for your Game Boy Advance other than the EverDrive X5? Well, there is, and it is called the Easy Flash 4. I actually own the Easy Flash for about a month, and it is by no means a horrible option. As you can see by this pros and cons list, they both do the important things. They both can play most GBA games, meaning, you know, there may be a ROM or two out there that just doesn't like flash carts, and they also can both do emulation. However, my problem with the Easy Flash came in the form of how you place games onto your SD card. With the EverDrive, it's 2 steps. You drag, you drop. But with the Easy Flash, you needed to download an application that would handle transferring ROMs from your computer to your SD card correctly. The Easy Flash does allow you to drag and drop games, but if there was any sort of save file needed to save progress, kind of like in Zelda for example, the game would forget your progress after shutting the GBA off unless you use the application to place the game on the SD card. The application would essentially handle setting up folders and metadata files needed to save your progress on the Easy Flash, where the EverDrive just does this whole save process on the fly. Now, this may not be a big problem if you only have a handful of games, and remember, only put games you own on the SD card. But if you have a bigger library, this application was a pain to use, especially since you can only transfer a handful of games at any given time. To me, this was the biggest reason for the switch to the EverDrive. Even with the bigger form factor of the EverDrive cartridge, meaning it sticks out a little bit above your GBA, and the price tag, I found the EverDrive way more appealing. Plus, I own multiple Crix EverDrives, and I know the quality of these cartridges. So, depending on what you think is most important, you may want to check out the Easy Flash instead.
One last thing I want to show you is the Game Boy Advance Micro, the smallest Game Boy Advance out there. The biggest problem with it was, unlike the Game Boy Advance and the Game Boy Advance SP, it simply could not play Game Boy Color games because they would not even go in. So your question may be, now that you have a Game Boy Advance EverDrive, can you play your Game Boy and Game Boy Color games on your Game Boy Advance Micro? And simply put, the answer is yes. Since you're emulating and not actually playing the games, and you don't have to stick the full big cartridges in there, there's nothing stopping anything from actually happening. So as you can see right here, I'm starting a game of Tetris for the Game Boy, and it is working with no problem.
Final thoughts. Would I recommend this? Yes, 100 times yes. I'd recommend picking up this EverDrive before you pick up any other EverDrive out there. I would even go as far as saying, if you don't own one of these, a Game Boy Advance, you should probably pick one up just so you can pick up this, the EverDrive for the Game Boy Advance. The biggest reason being, even with its shortcomings, is the expansive library you get. It's 6 whole systems in one little teeny tiny cartridge. So whether you're just sitting at home on the couch doing nothing, whether you're taking a plane trip, whether you're taking a bus to the city every day, or whether you're just taking a dump, this is one hell of a Swiss Army knife to have on you at all times. And I know the $99 price tag might seem kind of steep, but comparing it to like the NES Classic, you only get 30 games for $60, where with this, for $99, you get a massive library. So again, I cannot stress how much I would recommend someone picking this up. That's been my review. If you have any questions or concerns, put them below or comments. If you like the video, please click like. And I'm about to go take something. It's not going to be a plane or a bus, but you could probably take a guess. So thank you for watching. Have a good day. Goodbye. Final thoughts.